Language Experience Approach, Module 11. By this point, we have now learned teaching principles and instructional strategies for teaching alphabetics and word analysis, fluency, vocabulary, reading comprehension, and writing. This module will be about the Language Experience Approach, also known as LEA. It involves using the learner's own words to create passages that tutors can use to teach different components of reading and writing. Our objectives for this presentation include identifying why the language experience approach is effective with literacy learners, participating in the creation of a language experience story, and learning how to use a language experience story to develop a literacy lesson. I'm going to explain the process that we'll go through in creating a language experience story with your learner, and then discuss the benefits of this approach. So let's start at the beginning. You're going to converse with your learner to identify an experience or topic. The language experience approach is about inviting the learner to talk. The conversation will help you narrow down the topic for the language experience story and will help the learner to generate ideas. Topics for conversation might include asking the learner what they did for the over the weekend, what they enjoy doing for fun, or where they went on vacation. You might also use a prompt like reading a short article or using a picture. You're going to focus the conversation and ask the learner to tell you a story. Now that you've discussed the topic with the learner, you're going to narrow it down and have the learner tell you a story about it. You're going to print exactly what the learner says. Use correct spelling and punctuation, but do not change any words. Leave blank lines between each printed line. You will give the learner a chance to make edits later in the process. For beginning readers, a story of 3 to 5 sentences is long enough. For more advanced learners, you can use a longer story. Ask the learner to give a story a title. You're going to read and verify the story. So read the story back to the learner and ask if the story says what they wanted it to say. Ask the learner if there are any changes they would like to make to the story, and then reread the story as many times needed for this process. After that is done, you're going to read the story to the learner, tracking the words with your finger while the learner watches and listens. And then you're going to ask the learner to read the story. With beginning learners, you'll want to combine steps 5 and 6. You will need to read a sentence, tracking the words, and then ask the learner to read that sentence back to you. You'll repeat the process until the learner can read the entire story independently. Higher level learners may be able to read the story on their own after only listening to you read it once. You're going to identify reading and writing skills. Now that you have a story, you will use the story to identify reading and writing skills for your learner to work on. You might select words that highlight a specific phonic sound or word family. You might select vocabulary words that use prefixes and suffixes and use them for a lesson on word building. You can continue to work on fluency, selecting key phrases to practice. You can use the story to identify comprehension skills like cause and effect, main idea and detail, or sequencing. There'll also likely be some grammatical errors in the story. You can use those to teach grammar lessons. After the grammar lesson, give the learner an opportunity to revise the story. And finally, you're going to ask the learner to copy the story. There are many benefits to using the language experience approach with learners. It empowers learners when they see their own words in print. When the learner sees a story about a personal experience written in their own words, it is both empowering and motivating. It emphasizes the connection between oral and written language. As learners tell you the story, you write the story down on paper. This immediately helps the learner make the connection between their oral vocabulary and the same words now in print. It gives insight into the learner's vocabulary and language structure. The language experience story gives you an opportunity to understand the size and scope of the learner's vocabulary, their understanding of composition and grammar, and their experiences that you may draw upon for later lessons. It allows beginner learners to produce sophisticated work. Even though a learner may be reading at a 1st or 2nd grade level, they have been speaking and telling stories for their whole life. Learners can tell complex and detailed stories using high-level vocabulary words. This works well for individuals and for groups. It's a process that is easily adapted to individual learning and group learning. It works well with new learners. This approach provides a new learner with an immediate opportunity to experience success in reading and writing. It also gives you an opportunity to establish rapport with the new learner before delving into published instructional materials. It also gives you insight into some of the things that they might enjoy. We're now at the end of this module. It was a short one, so let's review what we learned. The steps for using the language experience approach, and the most important rule to remember when writing the story. You will notice that we have included a handout called the language experience approach. You can refer back to it at any time when you want to try this method. We appreciate your time and interest in learning about this language experience approach. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to your tutor coordinator at your council, or you can reach us here at Laubach Literacy New Brunswick. Thank you and have a great day.